Welcome back, humor consumers, to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm comedian Tracy DeGraff.
And I'm Catherine, co-host and bestie.
Welcome to the Pod Lab, co-host and bestie.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Super duper.
I walked down today. It was beautiful.
Oh, isn't that great? You're
yeah,
getting your
fresh
steps
air.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's always a step challenge. There's always somebody challenging the steps.
Yeah, I'm not officially involved in one, but I'm just challenging myself. Keep moving.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, it's a beautiful fall day, and, I don't know when you'll be listening to this, but I hope you're enjoying your day and putting one foot in front of the other. We just did a little prayer ahead of this recording talking about that very thing of how we're just two broke girls trying to put one foot in front of the other. We're just screwing it up and failing forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of failing forward, today's episode is on the topic of not quitting.
Yep. Keep going.
Yeah.
Persevering.
Yeah. So we're titling this one, When You Feel Like Quitting, ... And I think we've all been there. I know I have.
Oh, yeah.
I know you have.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to discuss, here are the takeaways. If you hang in there with us for the next 40 minutes or so, or whatever it takes us to spit all this out, one takeaway you're going to have is when and why we wanted to quit and how we persevered.
Mm-hmm.
So we both have stories. The second thing is 10 reasons why you shouldn't quit.
Yes.
Catherine's got something up her sleeve with that, right?
I do.
Good. Because
I
I'm
do.
like, wait, I think I could give 100.
It's a Christian perspective on it.
Nice.
But it can pertain to, anything. It does have a ministry, it's bent toward that. But
nice.
That's okay.
And then we're also going to talk about famous people who did not quit.
Mm-hmm. People that we all know.
Fascinating stories.
Or heard of.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
All right. As always,
snorted.
What's that?
I just snorted.
I know, I heard that. I was trying to cover it up, but you brought it out. So,
oh well.
Mama's little piggy. We always share some scripture at the end of each podcast. Why? Why do we do that? Why did we structure this podcast that way?
Well, because one, we always want to point to Jesus. That's the main reason.
That's right.
And we want to point others to him.
Yes.
Which is one and the same. And we want to be an encouragement.
Yes, and we want to have some answers, and we don't have them, but Jesus does.
So there you go.
So we can point you in the right direction.
Yep.
All right. And then we always have a call to action as well, so stay tuned for that.
Mm-hmm.
We have sponsors of the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast, and we would like to thank them right now. So, Catherine, tell our listeners, if somebody's listening for the first time, tell them about our sponsorship program.
Well, one can sponsor $5 a month. And it helps us move this forward. We have a platform that we use that we have to pay for every month. And as we just said, we want to inspire and encourage people. So that's why we need the sponsors. And we have some. We have about 15, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah. And most of them do pay the $5 a month. My husband is one of them.
Mine too.
Yours is too. And anyway, it's so exciting. It's so exciting to have 15 sponsors.
It is. I mean, they believe in us enough to reach into their wallet for $5 a month and bring that support to us. So the platform that we use for sponsorship is Patreon. Mm-hmm. If you go to my website, tracydegraff.com, or you can also get there by going to comedythatsaves.com.
And what's the text? Like text LOL to, what's the number?
33777.
Okay.
That'll get you signed up for my emails.
Oh, and then you can get,
you'll get there through the website.
Yeah.
There's so many ways now. It's
I know.
Just hard.
I can't even keep track.
Okay, side note. I was trying to figure out how I talk to somebody,
What do you mean?
Like a message.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we were just doing it earlier, trying
to
figure out how we get in touch with the coffee shop people.
Yeah.
But this was yesterday. I was trying to figure out, now, how did I say this message to this person? It was kind of an important thing. And I could not find, was it text?
Which communication?
Was it email? Mm-hmm. Was it Facebook Messenger?
We were doing that when we were in the car the one day too.
Oh, I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Because you can't remember how you talked to them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's true.
Anyway, our Patreon is on patreon.com too, and it's just Life Happens, Laugh Anyway. So if you want to join that audience, we're happy to have you. So welcome aboard. All right. Well, let's get to the show notes. To the outline. What episode are we on?
I think 147.
147.
Close to 150. We should
consistent.
Do something big for 150.
Yeah, we should. All right. Well, so when you feel like quitting, ... When and why we wanted to quit and how we persevered. Tell me, Catherine, about something that you wanted to quit, but you persevered.
I wanted to quit in the middle of giving birth.
Oh, you can't quit there, no.
You wanted to quit. I was like, just do a cesarean, whatever.
The baby's halfway out.
Yeah. Well, not.
Well, okay. Was it the first time, second time, third time, all times?
Every time, especially the first. But Patrick was very, very difficult. And I wanted to give up. I was like, chop my back off. It hurts.
She wanted a backectomy.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. But all joking aside, I mean, I really did want to quit. But you can't.
I believe you.
You can't. Yeah. But there was this one time in particular that stood out the most when I thought about this. When I was working for Panduit, and I was working in customer service, and I was pregnant with actually my first, Patrick, and I was being transferred. I asked for the transfer from customer service, which was, it sounds like an easy thing. Mm-hmm. It was a very, very complicated position to have. And I wanted to be transferred into accounts receivable. And I can't remember why that department in particular. I know that the posting came up, but postings were coming up, a lot. But the main reason was it had flexibility. And I knew with having a child, I wanted some flex time. But I was scared out of I was sick, scared out of my mind, because I hate math and I hate numbers. And we didn't have the technology then. I think this was 94, 95. No, it had to be 95. Anyway, but I was already going through the process. And not only did I not want to disappoint myself, I didn't want to disappoint my supervisor, who was upset that I was taking this transfer anyway. Because they spend 6 months training you, intense training in the customer service job. And I had such a fear of numbers that I just wanted to quit altogether and just pack it in and be like, that I can't do it. But those were the reasons. Those were my whys. I didn't want to disappoint myself. I didn't want to disappoint my supervisor or anyone else, really. So I kept going. And did I need the money? Yeah. So that was another reason. So I just kept going. And I loved the job. I loved it. It was not what I feared. And so it was rewarding in the end.
That's so interesting to me. When you say, I loved it, it's not what I feared. It turned out to be rewarding.
Yeah.
Because the thing that kind of pulled you through was the not wanting to disappoint, not wanting to give up on yourself or disappoint your supervisor or whatever. And the money, right? Because that's a practical part of life. We all need money.
Yeah.
Go to the grocery store, they expect you to pay. But then the rewards on the other side of it, like you even got a little bit animated with your facial expression when you said it was rewarding, and I liked it. And
Yeah, it was rewarding in the fact that I learned kind of like a craft that I never thought that I would be capable of doing.
You mean math?
Math was a craft to me.
The math craft. We're going to be crafting today, ladies. Get out your calculators.
I'll tell you what, I hated math so much that when it came time to playing games, I did not want to be the scorekeeper because I froze up.
I'm the same way.
Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I was a cashier.
Yeah.
And, you had to, if somebody gave you...
I know what you're going to say. You had to count back the change.
You had to count back the change. And I just froze. It was so bad.
Okay. Side note.
Yeah.
I do not like it when people of our generation criticize the youth for not being able to count back change.
Hello.
I do not like it because I'm like, give that poor kid a break. They don't know.
I'll tell you what, I can spell like nobody else. I know my grammar. I know when to use there properly and two and two properly. I know all that stuff, but I cannot do math.
Well, you're good at other things.
That's right. And speaking of, I wanted to quit math when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I did, but I said to my parents, want to quit this class because I got put into an advanced class because I cheated on the SAT or whatever it was.
Sorry.
So I cheated off of my very smart friend.
Way to go, Catherine.
Yeah, next thing I know, I'm in like advanced algebra. And so anyway, I said to my parents, I'm like, please let me quit this class, but I'll stay in it. I'll sit in it. I'll do the work.
Oh my gosh.
And I did. I sat through that stupid class. And
cheaters never prosper, Catherine.
but guess what? I didn't have fail on my report card because I didn't, I did all the work. I was so bad, though, I took it again in summer school. And it was my prerogative. Like I said, I need to be in summer school. I took it again. And I had a tutor.
Wow.
That I insisted my parents get me.
In some respects, and I can so relate to that because math was not my strong suit at all, has never been. In fact, I marvel at people who can do math in their heads.
No.
Like my husband and our son, Adam, the two of them, they can calculate something in a nanosecond, like a computer.
Yes.
And I just go, what?
Oh my gosh. I had this boss. I was in, he asked me to work for him, and it was in, reservations for corporate and what was my title? Reservation specialist, whatever.
Okay.
And he would forecast and he wanted me to forecast the, future.
Partly cloudy.
Yeah.
Might be a rainbow.
And he would look at the columns of numbers on the computer screen and he would just go and he had a number. And I was like, to me, they were like crossing and like, my eyes were crossed.
I get it.
I hate it.
I get it. That's part of what motivated me to study journalism and writing because I loved to write. I loved creativity and writing. Yeah. And I did not have to take math in college. I had to take one stats class. Oh, yeah.
Yes. That held me back big time. I mean, it was horrible. Okay, another time that I really wanted to quit when things got overwhelming when we lived on Oak River Drive. Like, I just felt overwhelmed with, just a lot of things. And one of them was the house was big. Our taxes just kept going up. And I'm like, I just want to quit this all. Of course, I wasn't thinking about anything, morbid or anything like that. But it was so overwhelming. And real downer.
I think
thinking about it.
You know what though? I think you can also apply that to anybody's situation. When you feel totally overwhelmed, you want to get out of that feeling.
Yeah.
And so quitting can be, right, very attractive.
But we did not quit. We, we just kept plugging away, and then eventually we, after prayer, and as you know, we decided, okay, we'll sell the house. But that's not quitting. That's just coming to...
It's just moving on. Different chapter.
Right,
That's
exactly.
all. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, the other thing I wanted to point out with this episode, we're not saying that you should stay with something that's really not working.
Right.
Like, there's no shame. I mean, we did that one episode about how many jobs we've had. Yeah. And between the two of us, we've had dozens and dozens and dozens of jobs. Yeah. So there's no shame in that. Yeah. But what we are encouraging, and you'll hear at the end, is just to just follow something. If it's really your dream and you really want to do something, don't give up on it. Totally.
Yeah. And sometimes it's, you can, don't quit today. Maybe quit at another time. Just don't do it right now. That could be it too. Okay. So another time I wanted to quit. There were certain relationships that I've wanted to just quit, just let it go. Yeah. But the ones that are worth it, you don't give up on. Yeah. You just keep going, and you think about how hard it is to have grace with yourself, and then think about it's easier to give grace to someone else. I don't know. So I would say some relationships, but that's, I think everyone's been in that boat. And another thing I really wanted to quit was when we were working out with our young guy, man boy at LA Fitness.
Yes.
Oh my God, I wanted to quit. But it was rewarding. It paid off. I mean, I've got some issues now in my elbow.
She's got tennis elbow.
Yeah. But I didn't give up. Neither did you.
Yeah, true. Very true. Is that it?
Those are the ones that stick out the most.
Well, you made me think of one that I didn't previously think of, and that was when I was in junior high. I was running track.
Oh,
track.
I was too. I have one, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And I don't remember why I signed up for track because I don't like running at all. Never have.
Right.
And I was running the 440.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's like 440 yards maybe. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
It's many times around the track.
Yeah.
It feels like forever.
Yep.
And I was doing pretty good at the beginning of the race compared to the people I was racing against.
Yeah.
And I was feeling pretty good about myself
Uh-huh.
until we had to keep going. And I'm like,
when does it end?
Wait a minute. And there was one of my teammates was running on the sideline, cheering me on. Yeah. And I just didn't want to disappoint them. And I was like, I'm doing the best I can.
So you kept going?
I kept going.
Awesome. You know about when I was in track, right?
No. Tell me.
I quit. I was like in a marathon where you passed the thing. And I was like,
No, it's a relay.
A relay.
You gave up on a relay?
I did. And I regret it to this day. And I can remember being like, I can't keep going. My mom's like, it's okay. Just quit. Well, if mom says it's okay, then okay.
In the middle of the race, you quit?
Yeah.
You walked off
Yes, I did. And it is a regret that I have, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, so good for you for you just kept going.
Yeah, I lost.
As you do.
I lost, but I finished.
Yeah, but you kept going. Yeah, you finished.
I did finish.
I can't say that.
Okay, if you're listening and you were one of the other 3 teammates on Catherine's relay, she's really sorry. It's still bothering her.
Oh, my gosh. I remember the coach being so, like, I think he was probably appalled.
He was probably shocked.
How you do what? My parents were like that, though. They're like, well, if you don't want to do it, just don't do it. And I'm opposite of that, actually. Yeah. For real. Anyway.
Oh, funny. All right. So that was one, junior high. I definitely would say with comedy, because that was the main one that I was thinking. I have thought about quitting comedy so many times.
Yeah.
First of all, it wasn't even my idea to do it.
Right.
So I don't feel any ownership over that because I wouldn't have even thought of it.
Yeah.
It was my idea to write a book. And I wrote the book.
Yes.
And the book happens to be funny.
Yes, right.
And it was someone in publishing who said, this is funny. You should put it on stage. And I paid that person for their opinion. So then I'm like, I'm invested.
Right.
And so I called up the Second City in Chicago and I said, you got a class? And they said, yes, we do. You got money? I said, well, I'll get you some. Mm-hmm. And that's where I started back in 2010, I think.
10?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a long while ago. Here we are now at 2023.
Yeah.
And over the course of those 13 or 14 years, whatever it was, it's so hard to do. I wanted to quit so many times.
And, from the outside, one wouldn't know that because outwardly, all we see is you persevering.
Yeah.
And I know you. I mean, I know that you've said that many times that, oh my gosh, I should just quit. But I don't think it's in you.
Maybe not. I mean, this is the way I describe comedy. This is how it is for me. It may not be this way for everybody, but this is how it is for me. I get so nervous beforehand. Yeah. Incredibly nervous. Mm-hmm. I'm sick to my stomach. I cannot eat, which is very unusual for me. I can usually eat, I think about everything. I'm afraid I'm going to forget everything. My brain is going to freeze. Nobody's going to show up. And all of these things have happened to me.
Yeah.
They've all happened.
And look at how you handle it.
Oh,
it's amazing to watch.
My goodness. And then when you get on the stage, here's what it's like. It's like jumping out of an airplane. Mm-hmm. And you think you've got a parachute on. You're pretty sure it's going to open, but you're not 100% sure. But guess what? You jump anyway. Mm-hmm. That's what it's like for me to do stand-up comedy.
Well, I could see why you want to quit. That's for sure.
Yeah, because it's you and a microphone and the audience. And the only, like, I've described it like this too. Like with singing, like let's say I was a singer, right? Mm-hmm. If I sing and it's really bad, at the end people clap, right? Because you're done. It's the polite society thing to do. You're not going to get booed off the stage. You're not going to get tomatoes thrown at you. You're not going to get heckled. Yeah. They're going to clap. Now, they may be clapping because they're glad that their ears don't hurt anymore. That could be it.
Yeah.
But with comedy, comedy is so different because it's like a conversation, and you talk, and then when you stop talking, the audience responds with laughter or silence.
Yeah, and you have to have control over either the rowdy crowd or the sleepy crowd.
Oh my.
You have to take the reins and build it up or bring it down, whatever. You've got to have control, and you do a good job at that.
I did a gig not too long ago. This just happened not too long ago, and there was this older man in the audience, and I can picture right where he was sitting. He was to my left. Okay, so he's sitting there, and I kind of have an eye on everybody in the audience.
Yeah,
and I can feel energy, you know. And of course, I'm getting responses from everybody in this crowd, you know, and I'm getting the responses, and he's just stoic. You know, he's just looking at me.
Yeah.
And he's an older guy. And we've talked about this, how older people sometimes have that resting face that is just
and you
flat.
cannot tell because their face is sagging.
Our faces are sagging. We're in the group. Well, anyway, I see it as a personal challenge. Like, I'm going to get some kind of a response out of him other than this flat, you know, nothing.
Yeah.
And I have one joke at the very end, the boobs on the gas pedal joke.
Yep.
It's my closer. It's a big close.
Yep.
It bowls him over, you know, regardless if you've not gotten anything, I'll get him on this last one, right? Well, I did that joke and I got just a little, just got a little from him.
You did it.
But here's the thing. I was like, victory. And that's really, I think part of it is that is the thread that pulls me through to the next gig is the challenge.
Yeah.
Because it's easy when they're all with you and for you.
Yeah.
But where it's hard is when they're not your crowd. They're not already on board. You got to get them on board.
So the challenge is something you kind of like. I also feel like I've seen you when a really good show has just happened. Like, I think it's intoxicating.
It is
for you.
There's a huge high.
Yeah.
But that payoff, there's no guarantee that payoff is going to be there.
I know.
There's no guarantee because there's so many elements that have to happen in order for the payoff to be there, right? So I've been in those situations where the room is, oh my goodness, you know, it's all bright lights and you're far away from the audience and the audio, nobody can hear you.
Yeah.
You know,
or
it's
where they're
too hot.
Scattered in the audience. That makes a difference too, doesn't it?
Yeah, and during the pandemic, I did shows where everybody else was masked and I wasn't, or I was masked and they weren't.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it was just, I've done shows, oh my God.
To sailors.
Series, oh my gosh, that time. She's talking about when I first started. Gosh, this was probably 2010, 2011. I was brand new. I had just finished my Second City class. And I was out, you know, getting my act together. And I was working with a couple of other comics in Chicago. Great guys. They became great friends. They're much younger than me. Anyway, I was there, and somebody else was in charge of promoting this event. Well, guess what? Nobody came.
Yeah.
4 people came.
Oh.
You could have fit 200 people in this venue. 4 people.
I don't know. I would have quit right there.
There were 3 comics.
Like the relay race all over again.
Yeah. There were 3 comics on the bill.
Oh my gosh.
And these 4 people each paid like $10, you know, to come and see this amazing show by themselves.
You paid your guy to tell you should do this. So that is one of your whys.
I had no choice. I had to get up on that stage and do my act.
Yeah.
You know, and my act was about raising my 5 boys, right? Well, first thing I said to this group of 4 people was, I fed more people breakfast this morning than are here right now.
That so was witty and
joke
funny.
number 1.
Yeah.
And then the other funny thing about the 4 people that came is they were 2 United States of America sailors. They're in the Navy, and their dates, you know.
Yeah.
Because they were all dressed up in their little Cracker Jack suits. They had that going. So I made fun of them a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was a memorable experience. My husband was there. And oh, gosh. It was memorable.
Yeah. Well, you're gritty. And grit don't quit.
I suppose. I remember back in, when did I join Southwest? I think it was 2015.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're in 2015. I've been at it for a few years, and it's just not going great. Like, you know, there's no money. There's no money.
Yeah,
They all want to pay you with, oh, good job, or here's a couple of Diet Cokes, or here's some
a
mint.
basket of cookies.
I've talked about this before, about how I went and did the North Judson, Indiana Mint Festival.
Yep.
And they paid me in a vial of true, pure Indiana mint.
I know.
I still have it.
Gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, so the money is tough. You got to have another job, before you really start getting paid anything. So I took a job with Southwest Airlines, which it was a way of running away from some issues at home. I mean, one of my kids was going through a really rough time. Teenage years were rough.
Yeah. I bet you wanted to quit that.
Yeah, I can't quit.
No, you can't quit.
No.
So you get a job.
Get a distraction. Give me a job. Get me out of here.
Like a job.
Well, so I took the job, and I remember the night that I was on duty. I was in the baggage service office at Midway Airport in Chicago, one of the busiest, they call them stations, airport stations of Southwest. And in the baggage office, they have behind the scenes a whole room full of brand new suitcases.
Yeah.
And they're stacked up from floor to ceiling. Mm-hmm. And it's not a big room. It's kind of a small, narrow room. There's no window in there.
Maybe that's why you're claustrophobic now.
It could be.
Because you weren't before.
It could be.
Maybe.
So they have an employee that has to go into that room. Mm-hmm. It's like the size of a big closet. Let's call it that. Mm-hmm. You go into this big closet, floor to ceiling suitcases, and each suitcase has its own serial number that's labeled on there. Mm-hmm. And you're given a printout, and you have to match up serial numbers.
There they are again, numbers
to the suitcase. And it takes hours to get through this inventory.
Yeah.
And the reason that you have to do it is because somebody somewhere was stealing the suitcases. Mm-hmm. So they have to make sure that before every shift. Now, how they couldn't get a scanny thing to do that, I don't know.
No kidding.
How is it that they couldn't just scan it and go dee-dee-dee-dee-dee?
Hello, it was 2015.
Yeah, maybe they changed it by now. But I'm in this closet. I'm hot, for one thing.
Uh-oh.
I'm 50 years old. Mm-hmm. I feel like a failure. Mm-hmm. I've got issues at home. I've got issues, with comedy. Nothing's really popping right. Mm-hmm. And I'm in this closet sweating, and I'm crying.
Yeah.
Because I could not remember my jokes. And I texted Catherine from this closet at Midway Airport. I can't remember my jokes.
Felt so bad when you did that.
Oh, it was a low point.
Yeah.
It was a low point. But, eventually I quit. I only lasted in that job for 4 months. I thought I would last a lot longer, but I did not. Mm-hmm. And part of it was I needed to be home to manage things at home.
Yeah.
As well as it was just too far from my house. There was a lot of different issues.
Right.
But I did not quit. And I remembered my jokes.
And it's a part of your story and your growth with the comedy, too.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. All right. That's I could talk for hours and hours, but I think
You think you're done there?
I think that's pretty much it, because, you just keep going.
Well, you didn't lose sight of your future. And I know you. I know that you're grateful of where you are right now, and even in the closet with the suitcases.
Okay, let me add to that, since you just reminded me of something. So after I quit at Southwest, so I'm 50 years old and I quit, I actually had missed my mammogram because I couldn't get off work. I had missed my mammogram, so then I scheduled my mammogram after I had quit, and guess what? I had breast cancer.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, wow, it's a good thing that I didn't just let that mammogram go. Yeah. And that I quit and I got my mammogram in. Yeah. Because what if it had progressed to a different stage, because mine was diagnosed as stage 1. Mm-hmm. And then, so I did have to put comedy on hold until I could get all fixed up. Like I had to have a lumpectomy, and then I had to have some radiation therapy. Mm-hmm. But once I came back from all that, I started doing comedy events at hospitals and breast centers. Yeah. Just one at a time, here and there. Mm-hmm. And I have found that I'm so passionate now about cancer screenings. Yeah. To remind people to get their screening. It's almost like, it's almost a little bit nauseating how passionate I am about it, but I guess somebody's got to be passionate about it.
Yeah. God is definitely using you.
Well,
that.
I'm grateful that I had the cancer and that we caught it early. And the reason we caught it early was because of the screening.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm taking that message around the country,
Right.
reminding people to get their screenings. And, the pandemic then came in a couple of years after that. So that kind of put a kibosh on everything for a few years. So I was sidelined again for a little period of time. But now we're coming back from the pandemic, even though I know this is 2023. So it's been a few years. But hospitals and breast centers would not have a comedy show during a pandemic.
Right.
They just, that'd be the wrong look.
True. But again, you are able to enjoy where you are.
Yeah.
And keep going, and you don't lose sight of that future that you see.
No, and I think the fear of what if, that's one of the things I want to encourage anybody who's listening. If you have something in front of you and you're like, oh, I'm afraid to go for that. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's the worst thing that's going to happen to you if you don't?
Yeah.
Right? Or if you do or if you don't, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? If you try and you don't get there, okay, you don't get there.
Yeah.
But if you never try, how are you going to know if you could get there?
Yeah, I read an article when doing the research for this, and it said that leaders and successful people, they expect failure, and failure is part of the growth. And we'll be talking about some famous people that failed over and over.
You have to fail. Mm-hmm. You fail forward. We had a business coach, Coach Alex, who taught us. He taught us in one of his classes. He said, "Failure is not failure; it's feedback."
Yeah,
failure gives you feedback of something that you can do differently. Yeah. Like Thomas Edison is one of the people.
I looked him up.
Well, he had like 1,000 tries to make a light bulb. Now everybody experiences a light bulb every single day.
Yes.
Well, what if he gave up at try number 500?
Right. Or 2 or whatever.
Yeah. No, 1,000 times.
1,000 times. Yep.
Yeah, so don't give up and just keep on, keep on going.
Michael Jordan, too.
Yeah.
He failed at many shots, lost many games when they were counting on him. But everybody knows. I said Michael Jordan, everybody knows immediately who he is.
He was cut from his high school basketball team. Mm-hmm. He was not good enough for high school basketball.
Yeah. That's so crazy.
And did he quit? Did he say, no, I think I'm just going to go play some video games or whatever? No.
Yeah.
He just got busy in the gym. Yeah. He worked on it.
When your passion drives you, it's your why that drives you. Why am I doing this?
Bingo. That's hitting it on the head. Finding a why. Because like I said, I don't think that everything should be, don't go crazy and throw caution to the wind. Quit your job, sell your house, and go live in a car. Mm-hmm. I've heard of entrepreneurs that have done that, or different entertainers that have done that. And, I guess that's one way to go, but I wouldn't recommend that.
No, actually, that's a big debate on Shark Tank. No surprise, I'm going to talk about that because there are, I don't know, I don't remember which ones, but a couple of them are like, yeah, if you really, really want this to happen, do that. And then others are like, no, keep your day job. Anyway, it's a big debate.
Yeah, everybody's got to figure out where they fall on that. But for me, I prefer a roof over my head rather than, just the car with sunroof. No.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to 10 reasons why you shouldn't quit.
Okay, so again, I'll say again, this is kind of like a Christian perspective, and it could be for ministry, but it could also be for anything in life that has, especially if it has some kind of purpose and meaning to you. All right, 1, don't quit because what you are doing now may be positively affecting a life, and you may not even be aware of it.
Oh, that's for sure.
I thought of you when I read that.
The reason why that does resonate with me is the same thing that you just referenced, is that when I'm out there now encouraging people to get and stay current on their cancer screenings, guess what? I leave that group. I have no idea whether or not they've done it.
Right. And then
no idea.
Same with when you do shows for churches.
True.
And you bring in, people who are not saved. You don't know.
I have no idea. But you just trust that, those seeds are planted and that they're watered down the line. And it doesn't matter that you get the accolades, right? Yeah. You're just doing what you're called to do.
You do it anyway.
You speak the message and let the chips fall where they may.
Right. Okay. Second, don't quit because you may just be days away from a tremendous breakthrough.
Yeah.
That's possible. All right. Don't quit because everything you do in love will count for all of eternity.
Yeah.
I love that one.
I see that as an investment. I was told many, many years ago that in the end, everything else falls away, right? Except for God, his word, and his people.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's right.
So if you can invest in anything that has to do with God, his word, and his people, it's a worthwhile investment.
That's exactly right, which is a great segue to this next one. Don't quit because faithfulness pleases God.
It does.
Absolutely. Also, number 5, don't quit because quitting would undo all that you have worked for up to this point.
Yeah, when you think about it that way, that's really interesting because you endure, you sweat, you got the blood, sweat, and tears. And then, as you referenced in the previous one, you're really doing this for an audience of one, and that's God. He's the one who put you here on this earth.
Right.
He gave you a purpose. He gifted you in ways to make you succeed.
Right.
That doesn't mean that that you don't have to practice.
Right.
And pay your dues. Michael Jordan is arguably the best, the GOAT, the whatever that, I didn't know what that meant before.
I know, me neither.
The greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan has proved himself on the basketball court. So he has certain athletic gifts and skills. He also has just a stick-to-itiveness to him, right?
Yeah.
And he had parents that encouraged him. But guess what? He couldn't just lay in bed all day and expect his gift to grow and mature.
Right. You have to do the work.
You do.
Okay. I love this next one. Don't quit because quitters are more filled with regret than those who persevere.
Yeah. Do you know?
Can relate to that.
I gotta tell you this. Sorry, you keep on
hitting things.
So I had a job one time. I was working for my church, and I did not quit the job, but the job quit me. You know, it was kind of one of these things where I was let go.
Yeah,
I wasn't fired, but the church they no longer had funds where they could keep me on. Would have been like a luxury, So they just had to cut. And so they cut my position. And I have vacillated back and forth between, I wish I would have just quit before
they had a chance.
Yeah, because I hung in there for a good almost 2 full years where it was tough. It was just rough. The church was going through some rough times. I was going through rough times. There was just issues. And I put myself through those things thinking that I would still have a job at the end of the day. But then I didn't. Well, what you just said is I would have never known if I had quit. I'm taking the reins and I'm saying I'm quitting, right? But because I didn't quit and God fired me, God laid me off.
He moved you.
He moved me. Yes, thank you. Then I don't have regret over that.
Right. And I still see in you today the effect of that. Like it bubbles up in your experience bubbles up and comes out in all kinds of ways.
Sure.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, and it's good.
It is good. It's I was just having this conversation with one of my boys yesterday just about adult life and how we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our attaboys. Yeah. Really, we do. And so while we wouldn't want to have made any mistakes, but I was explaining to my son, I said, your dad and I have made a lot of mistakes and we've tried to learn from them and you will make mistakes as well. The good news is you can grow and mature and adjust, you know, just like we did.
Yep.
So don't, try not to feel bad about it.
Yeah. We adapt all the time.
We do.
As people. Okay, so also number 7, don't quit because the world is still in need of the gospel and you are a vital part of the church.
Yeah.
So obviously this one pertains to the Christian, but we're Christians and we see the value in that. And I think that's super encouraging.
Yeah. And, church life is, I've described it like this. Sometimes it can be a real hemorrhoid. It can. It can be a real hemorrhoid.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because the church is made up of people. We have certain expectations of, well, if you're a Christian and if you're, you've got these religious beliefs, you're going to have this piety.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Jesus came for the sinners.
That's right.
Scripture
Which
says
is
that
us.
we've all sinned.
Yes.
Fallen short. So it's a hemorrhoid.
Okay, don't quit because future generations of your family will reap from your obedience.
Yeah. That's
Amen.
interesting. Yeah.
I love that. Don't quit because truth is worth the fight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't quit because life is too short to retake divine tests. Right?
Life is too short to retake
a divine test. God's probably up there,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do this again for you.
Help me, Jesus.
Yeah.
Help
And
me.
that was 10. That was 10
That's
reasons.
beautiful. Thank you
Mhm.
for sharing all that. I appreciate it.
I liked that one.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go into famous people who didn't quit.
Okay. Let's go.
Do you have any that you want to share?
I do. I have quite a few, but I'll just do, I don't know who you're going to do.
That's
but
okay. We can have overlap.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
J.K. Rowling.
Oh, yeah. I love her.
Okay. Yes. Now, not everyone may know this, so I'm just going to, it's just a quick paragraph
That's all right.
on a few of these.
Take your time.
J.K. Rowling had just gotten a divorce, was on government aid, which is on the dole in England, and could barely afford to feed her baby in 1994, just 3 years before the first Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, was published.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
I know. When she was shopping it out, she was so poor she couldn't afford a computer or even the cost of photocopying the 90,000 word novel. So she manually typed out each version to send to publishers. It was rejected dozens of times.
Wow.
Until finally Bloomsbury, a small London publisher, gave it a second chance after the CEO's 8-year-old daughter fell in love with it.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about just not quitting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, J.K. Rowling, it doesn't say what her worth is today, but we know. I mean, there's amusement parks after her novels and books. And I mean, look at the merchandise alone, the movies and all the stuff.
Good for her.
Mm-hmm. Stephen King.
Yeah.
I forgot about his failures, so I'll read this as well. King was broke and struggling when he was first trying to write. He lived in a trailer with his wife, also a writer, and they both worked multiple jobs to support their family while pursuing their craft. They were so poor they had to borrow clothes for their wedding. Hello.
Wow.
Borrow clothes for their wedding, and had gotten rid of the telephone because it was too expensive.
Wow.
King received so many rejection letters for his works that he developed a system for collecting them. In his book On Writing, which
I've read.
we both read, he recalls, by the time I was 14, the nail in my wall would no longer support the weight of the rejection slips impaled upon it. I replaced the nail with a spike and kept on writing. He received 60 rejections before selling his first short story, The Glass Floor, for $35. Even his now best-selling book, Carrie, wasn't a hit at first. After dozens of rejections, he finally sold it for a meager advance to Doubleday Publishing, where the hardback sold only 13,000 copies. Not great. And then soon after, though, Signet Books signed on for the paperback rights for $400,000, and $200,000 of which went to King. Success achieved.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Do you know that I reached out to him when I wrote my book?
I remember.
I wanted an endorsement from him because he was the prolific horror writer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what could be more horror-ish than raising 5 boys?
That's awesome.
I just thought it would be funny to have
See?
an endorsement from him.
You're a trier.
That's true.
You're very, very daring. I don't even think that's...
I'm not afraid to ask.
You're gritty.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to ask because the worst they can do is just say no.
Yeah.
So
Okay, this guy I'm going to skip over because I think this is who you might be doing.
Okay.
So I'm going to skip over. They've got Shania Twain here, Emily Blunt. Okay, Oprah Winfrey.
yeah.
Oprah dealt with a lot throughout her public life, criticism about all kinds of stuff. I won't go into all of that. But her childhood and her personal triumphs are cast in an even more remarkable light. growing up, Oprah was reportedly a victim of sexual abuse and was repeatedly molested by her cousin, an uncle, and a family friend. Later, she became pregnant and gave birth to a child at 14 who passed away just 2 weeks later.
Wow.
But Oprah persevered, going on to finish high school as an honors student, earning a full scholarship to college, and working her way through the ranks of television from a local network anchor in Nashville to an international superstar, as we all know, and creator of her own network.
Good for her.
Yeah. Now, I skipped over some people on this list, but I wanted to look up some of the Shark Tank stars.
Yeah.
Because some of them really did have like lots of failures. Well, most successful people do. And one in particular that I picked because I knew that she had some struggles was Barbara Corcoran.
Yeah.
She came from a family of 11. She had 9. There were 9 siblings, and they lived in a 2-bedroom.
That would be 10.
What?
You are bad at math.
Wait, no. She had 9 siblings.
Plus her, that'd be 10.
No, I mean there were 9. No, there were 9 siblings.
I know.
And then her parents. That's 11.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, no.
Okay.
9
I got you.
siblings, and then the 2 parents.
Okay.
Okay. She was a straight D student.
Oh.
She had dyslexia, which, that was not diagnosed when she was younger.
Yeah.
She was labeled dumb. And she tried her whole life to prove that she's not stupid. Those are her own words. She would daydream because she couldn't learn. But she graduated from college. And from there, she was going to be a teacher. But then she was waitressing, and she met her boyfriend, went into business with this boyfriend in real estate. I think she borrowed $1,000 from him, and then they grew this business. But then one day he came home and he said that he was going to marry her secretary. And he said, you'll never succeed without me. Well, that just,
lit her
fired
fire.
her up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she became so successful that in an old boys network of real estate, I mean, against men. And this is in the 70s.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain. And she's the first business to sell real estate on the internet. I mean, she really overcame a lot. Even just it being in that industry with men is something to overcome.
Yeah.
So I thought her story was worth mentioning in the not quitting thing. I mean, being told you're stupid or feeling like you're stupid, having these, disabilities like dyslexia, and being really poor, those are a lot of things to overcome. And so I admire her.
It sounds like she used those things as fuel.
Oh, for sure she says that, yeah.
Because, like you mentioned, if you have your why, you can really project yourself forward, no matter what it is, whatever goal that you want to achieve. If you have a strong why of why you want to do it,
yeah,
you're going to make it.
That's true. And speaking of why, Robert Herjavec on the show, he also has his why. I won't go into his whole story, but he felt a real need to justify his dad's sacrifice. So he's the only one who's an actual immigrant on the show. And his dad made a lot of sacrifices moving out from the communistic country of Croatia, which was also Yugoslavia back then. Anyway, it's a really neat story. You can look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, and all these people, they're not perfect. There's nobody perfect.
No, right.
But you can be inspired by them.
I definitely am.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to be what they are, but it's inspiring.
It is. Anybody else?
Well, no, it's okay. These ones are not as.
Now, you mentioned Emily Blunt. I'm curious about her.
Okay.
What's her story? Because I love her. I think she's great.
I barely know who she is.
She's married to John Krasinski from The Office. And she's from England, and she's an amazing actress.
I did know she was from England. Okay, well, it says here, before Blunt was getting nominated for Golden Globes and landing leading roles on the stage and big screen, she could barely carry a conversation with her classmates.
Wow.
Between ages 7 and 14, Emily had a major stutter. As she was as she told W Magazine, I was a smart kid. I had a lot to say, but I just couldn't say it. It would just haunt me. I never thought I'd be able to sit and talk to someone like I'm talking to you right now.
Wow.
But all that changed when one of her junior high teachers encouraged her to try out for the school play. A totally unappealing feat, given the fact that she had such a hard time communicating. Can you imagine? You stutter and you're being asked to...
Good for her that she did it.
Good for the teacher for
recognizing.
Yes. But the teacher kept gently pressing and suggesting she try accents and character voices to help get the words out. And it worked. By the end of her teens, Blunt had overcome her stutter and went on to achieve the successful career she has now.
Good for her. That reminds me of The King's Speech. That's a good film.
Yes, I love that film.
Watch that film if you're looking for one. Mm-hmm. All right, I want to talk about Colonel Sanders.
I knew it. I skipped over him.
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. Everybody's heard of it. It's all over the world.
Yeah, he has a good story.
Okay, I am obsessed with his whole story now. I'm going to go over these facts because these I did not know. He was born in 1890 in Henryville, Indiana. He was raised by an ultra-religious mother who taught him that alcohol, tobacco, playing cards, and coffee are bad.
Oh, coffee too, huh?
Yeah.
Was he Mormon?
I don't know. His mom married a guy who didn't like stepchildren. So at age 12, he was like put out.
Wow.
He was like, good luck. Make it in the world. Now, this was in 1902.
Yikes.
He worked on a farm while going to school. And when that became too hard, he quit school in the 7th grade.
Okay.
Over the next 3 decades, so 30 years, he had become a streetcar conductor, a railroad fireman. He studied law by mail. He acted as a midwife.
Wait, back? He studied law by mail?
By mail.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he was a midwife?
He was a midwife.
Oh my gosh.
Colonel Sanders is here.
Get your mustache out of the way.
Oh my gosh. And he also operated a steamboat ferry. Now, most of these jobs, he failed. He failed at most of these jobs. At age 18, during this 3-decade period of time, right, he got married. He had 3 children. He got fired by the railroad, and his wife left to go back to her parents in Alabama.
Oh my gosh.
Get this. You did not know this about Colonel Sanders. When his wife left and went to Alabama, so I don't know if he's still in Indiana or wherever he is, but she takes the kids. He planned and failed to kidnap his own children.
Oh my God, that's not in this article because it's just a brief.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then guess what happened? He reluctantly decided to reconcile with his wife. So when the kidnap failure came about, he's like, all right, well, let's just stay together. We'll just figure this out. Well, the couple divorced 40 years later. At age 40, Sanders started selling chicken out of a gas station.
That's what I see here. Yeah.
Yeah. And this
in
was
1930.
This was in Kentucky. So now he's already been through how many jobs. Wow. His stepdad rejected him. You know, all this stuff. Okay, it gets worse.
Oh my gosh.
So now he's trying to sell chicken out of a gas station.
Yeah.
And he decides to paint giant billboards, but not to paint them like a billboard on the side of the highway, because at that time, this was back like in 1930, 1931, that era. It was the Great Depression. There was like the bootleggers were running whiskey and all that, or moonshine, I don't know, whatever it was. Well, people were known to shoot at billboards from the highway. They would just shoot at them. So it was like target practice. So the billboards would be all shot up.
Oh, no.
To avoid having his billboard shot, he decided to paint his billboard on the side of barns because he figured people are not going to shoot at the barns because there's animals in there and such, and they're harder to get at. So he did that. Well, then he found this one big building that was a cement blank wall, and he pictured that as a canvas for his chicken ad. He put his chicken ad up there. Well, there was this guy who ran a gas station down the street, and his name was Matt Stewart. Well, Matt didn't like that old Colonel Sanders was up there getting all the chicken business. So he would go to the painted sign, and he would paint over it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he painted over it with this stuff that was really hard to undo.
Okay.
You know? Okay. So anyway, Colonel Sanders and a couple of his managers now, because he's seeing some success. He's having some success.
Yeah.
2 of his managers and Colonel Sanders, they go to talk it out with this Matt
guy.
And guess what? there's gunfire exchanged.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Matt happened to be armed.
Okay.
You know? Well, Colonel Sanders also had a weapon, and Matt ends up dead. He's dead. He's gone.
Did our Colonel Sanders
shoot
him?
He did.
Good old fashioned shoot him.
He shot him, but he was not accused of murder because they said it was self-defense. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So he did not go to jail or anything like that. Now, Stuart. Let's see. Oh, okay. No, Stuart was shot. Hold on, I'm getting it wrong. I'm sorry. Back it up. Stuart shot one of Colonel Sanders' managers dead.
Okay.
So he's the one who was dead at the scene.
Oh,
was
okay.
one of the other managers.
Okay.
Colonel Sanders returned fire, shooting Stuart in the shoulder.
Okay.
So he did not kill him.
He didn't kill him.
But now Stuart is now being tried for murder.
Okay.
Because he shot the manager.
Mm-hmm.
All over the chicken signs.
And he drew first blood.
Whatever. I don't know how they figured it all out. But it says here that while waiting appeal, he was waiting on appeal in July of 1933. Stuart was out of prison waiting for an appeal. I don't know how you are accused of murder and you're out of prison waiting for an appeal. Well, he was shot and killed by a deputy sheriff.
Oh.
And there was no other details about like all what happened with that. It just said that he was shot before, and he's dead. So that left Colonel Sanders, the sole chicken guy in Kentucky. And he had that recipe, that
secret recipe,
herbs and spices and all of that. By the way, when he was only age 15 or 16, he lied so that he could become a part of the army.
Oh my God.
Well, remember his stepdad had rejected him. So he was just looking for a place to belong.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so all that happened. He received an honorary colonel what did they call that? Distinction.
Okay.
He received that by the governor of Kentucky in 1935 and also in 1949. So he did not earn that rank in the military or anything like that. It was just he was called colonel, kind of like being knighted by the queen or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also called colonel in that way, in like a respectful way, was Muhammad Ali and Bob Barker. I just thought that was interesting.
Wow. I didn't know that.
The famous chicken was not on the menu in early on when he first started selling food out of the gas station. Yeah. The chicken was too hard. It took too long to make.
Oh.
Because it was like a 30-minute process.
Okay.
The turning point came when they discovered a pressure cooker fryer.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of mentioned here.
Yeah.
At the roadside Shell station.
Yeah. So he had that pressure cooker really changed things. Well, then when the big interstate came through and they rerouted the traffic, they rerouted it to the interstate. Well, then his business was floundering again.
Yeah, I read that.
Okay, so this guy has gone through hell and back.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, there's murder, lies, deceit,
all kinds of
rejection,
stuff.
all of it.
Now we're into the age where he's getting to be retired. Okay. He's retirement age and he's receiving his Social Security check, which is like $105 a month, something like that.
He's almost broke.
Yeah. And the only thing he has are his name, his chicken recipe, and this $100 a month from the government.
Oh man!
Listen to this. So now it's 1963. He ends up with having over 600 restaurants in the U.S. and Canada, and by 1964, he sold his franchise to investors for $2 million.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which was big money. And they told him that he could stay on in an advisory role. Mm-hmm. So they increased the ad budget, just a whole bunch of stuff. Like here's an example. In 1964, like when he sold it, they sold $0.5 million, so $500,000 in ads, $500,000 in ads. But in 1970, just a few years later, $24 million in ads.
Wow.
That'll take you from 0 to 60, quick. The white suit,
yeah,
and the look, like that whole thing.
His branding.
The brand that bought him, the conglomerate or whatever that bought him, they liked that idea. They liked the authentic feel of having a living legend kind of a thing. So the white suit was huge for 20 years. Now they can sell for $80,000 at auction.
Wow.
Yeah. He used to bleach his facial hair to make it white to match his naturally white hair. He traveled 200,000 miles a year making appearances.
No kidding.
But here's something I didn't know as well. He hated some of the changes that they made to his gravy. So the gravy that he made was, it was stupendous. And he called the gravy that they made, because they changed it so it would be easier for franchises to get it all right.
Mm-hmm.
He called it, and I quote, pure wallpaper. It was pure wallpaper paste. Wallpaper paste. That was it. Pure wallpaper paste. And he was so harsh at his comments about the gravy that they sued him.
Oh, no kidding.
They sued him, and the lawsuit was thrown out, but then they sued him again, and they ended up settling where he had to pay like $1 million. Well, in 1970, Colonel Sanders, now by this time he's in his 80s. So this guy has been through how many things from the time he was born, right? He's married again to, because, the one lady that it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Where he tried to kidnap his own kids.
She chickened out.
She did. She's like, I'm done with you. Well, this Claudia, who was his mistress but became his wife, they decided in the 70s that they were going to open a competitor for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Oh. So he was going to compete against his own, like what he built. Yeah. And they called it Claudia Sanders, the Colonel's Lady Dinner House. I don't think they had an advisor on the name.
Yeah.
They tried to expand. They were sued by KFC for $121 million because they were competing. Mm-hmm. And they settled out, out of court. Sanders sold the restaurant, and that Claudia Sanders Dinner House still exists today. It's in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, wow. Cool. We'll have to go there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think, it's not all good. It's not all good, because it's never good to kidnap your children or to, kill somebody.
No kidding. I see you rabbit trailed like I did. Like I was on this Shark Tank thing, and I'm like, every single one of them. I looked into their stories. Back to Colonel Sanders, though, I was looking at this, and it says, I don't know when this was. Oh, it says, worried about how he was going to survive off his meager $105 monthly pension check, he set out to find restaurants who would franchise his secret recipe, like you had said. And it says he wanted a nickel for each piece of chicken sold.
Right. That was the agreement.
Oh,
the
my
franchise
gosh.
agreement.
And he drove around sleeping in his car and was rejected more than 1,000 times before finally finding his first partner.
Yeah.
Holy moly. That's perseverance.
Yeah, I think that's just in the DNA and in the wiring. There are people that just quit is not in them.
Yeah.
I think
that too.
I watched some stuff about who's the rocket guy? Starlink.
Oh my goodness. Elon
Twitter.
Musk?
Yes, Elon Musk. Sorry, his name just escaped me. When he started that rocket company, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And many people tried to talk him out of it, how difficult it was.
Yeah.
There's a documentary out about what it took, right? It was a lot of failure. It was a lot of failure. And you had to just keep going.
Well, and he seems the type to keep going. I saw some
That's
stuff.
what he said. He said, there's no quitting me. I'm either dead or incapacitated. I'm not a quitter.
It's amazing to me how we're all created, so different. Yeah. I mean, there are people that are just wired that way.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
And interesting. And I hope it's inspiring. I do.
Yeah.
I hope it's inspiring for everybody to, I don't know, just don't quit, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, let's cover our scriptures. We have Hebrews 12, verse 1. It says this, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. Jesus knew his why, Catherine.
That's right. He sure did. Ready, set, go. And
he
went.
knew his why.
Yep.
And he did not waver. So we can hang on to that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Galatians 6, verse 9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up.
There you go.
Love
That's
it.
inspiring. You know what I forgot to do?
What?
I forgot to mention when I was reading the 1 Corinthians 9:24.
We'll mention it now.
I'll mention it now. Don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. The call to action.
Don't give up.
It's
kind of obvious.
And it's actually written here in our notes. Duh.
Yeah.
Don't give up. At least not today. All right. Well, this has been a little bit longer than normal.
Yeah, it's over an hour.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you all have enjoyed that hour.
I hope so too, because this whole time I've had to go to the bathroom.
Oops, Catherine's got to go. All right. Well, you've been listening to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm still comedian Tracy DeGraff.
And I'm still Catherine.
See you next time.